Hi everyone, so it's me again with new streaming. This time we'll be working on rigging on the monkey character. So it will be currently, I will talk about rigging in general and also try to give you some tips to rig a biped character, let's say, like a human, but this time it will be a monkey. So let's get started. Let me know if everything sounds fine at your side, if the sound is okay. So we are now on this little character. So I've taken the liberty to create a very basic deformation rig here. So if I go into edit mode, you can see I've done only half of the character. I've also placed here a root bone for the torso and a general root bone here for the position of the whole character. Thank you. Hey Solveig, nice to have you here. So I'm using the bone layer management. It's an add-on, so just search for bone layer management add-on. Very useful because you can name your bone layers here. So it's very easy to use and it allows you to hide or lock your bones. And it's way easier to read than the standard layer manager here. So I first built the deformation bones here. So I'm not doing this live because it's quite long, especially for the end, just aligning everything. But you just start from a single bone and start extruding stuff and parent them as a natural bone chain, meaning that the leg should be parented to the hip bone and the shoulder to the chest bone and the arm to the shoulder, etc. Hey Geoffrey, yeah, we all have to work. So hope to see you on another stream. So from this point, there are two things you have to know. Whenever you are rigging something, don't try to put every constraint on a single bone. We will decompose every chain by duplicating them and creating new chain of parents, because you give a function to a bone, then parent it to another bone that has another constraint, and this is the way you build non-buggy, let's say, non-buggy rig. So what we will do during the stream is that we will create an IK chain for the leg with a foot roll, a switchable IK to FK rig for the arm, and a neck follow rig for the head, and also those flipping rig for the feathers here. And I will also create a more complex rig for the tail, even if I won't be using it in animation. It's just for you to see how you can rig a complex chain very handily. So whenever you rig something, the last thing here, I've called all my deformation bones def and then the word, what they are, their name. Okay. When you give this prefix to a bone, you won't be able to recover their position or any keyframe from the pose library. And this is where you can store standard here, pose library. I will show you later on, where you can store a default position or different position and recall them. Whenever a bone has this deformation prefix, it won't record or it won't be recalled toward the pose library. So what I do generally is that I duplicate those bones and apply them a constraint, a copy transform constraint. And there is a second reason for that, not only the deformation problem, but also the fact that if I was to create a corrective shape key that allow you to correct the mesh when you have bad deformation, or allow you to create face expression when you are using shape keys to drive the face of your character, you will generally want to use the deformation bones because they are the very last in the chain. And whenever you make modification on your rig later on, you will generally keep your deformation bones as they are. So if you have created shape keys that are driven by those deformation bones, you are sure that even if you do modification on the rig later on, the driver will still work. And the second thing here is that I've made you a small example. I have a cube here, and its Z-scal is driven by this bone. Whenever this bone will rotate on its x-axis, we can see the cube here scaling. Okay, so it's pretty simple. I've created a driver, set it to average value, and I'm using the X rotation in the local space of this bone. All right, but the thing here is that if I cancel the rotation, it will be set to 0. This bone here is parented to this one, and whenever I rotate this bone, you can see that nothing is happening while this one is rotating. But as it is parented, its rotation in the world space has changed, but its local rotation here hasn't changed. And so, as Blender is recording this information to drive this cube, it won't work. But if I unparent it by pressing Alt-P and clear the parenting, and add a copy rotation to it, or a copy transform of, or whatever, Control-Shift-C, copy rotation, you can see the cube now move. And if I rotate this, the parent bone, the main bone, let's say the control bone, it will move. And this is because the current rotation, even if we can't see here anything, the current rotation is set after this bone transformation, meaning that the constraint is giving rotation information to the bone. And so the driver has something to read and to be driven. So that's why you will always have an intermediate rig before your deformation bones. Hope it sounds clear. So don't hesitate to ask questions on the chat. I have it right in the corner here. Okay, so let's get started. What I will do is that I won't be using any specific constraint for the chest bone here, for the torso bones, because there are only 3 bones, and when animating I like to have control on each one. So creating a bending effect also while I will be tweaking it later on using those bones is useless. I prefer to directly animate with those bones. So what I've done here, you can see that they are perfectly aligned with the world, let's say, with the character, and they are all oriented the same way. You can see that the Z is pointing backward for every bones here. So I will unlock this so that you can see what I'm doing. So I will press Shift-D to duplicate those bones and move them to another layer, and this will be our torso. So now I can display those bones and give them a relevant name with the CTRL prefix. Okay. That's the bummer about rigging. You have a lot of renaming to do. So I know there are a few add-ons that can make it faster, but I've tried them and don't know how to use them. Okay, so now I have my controllers here, but nothing is happening. So I will go and display also the deformation layer here. I will first select my control spine, then select the deformation spine, press Ctrl Shift C, copy transform, and I will repeat this for the other one. Def ips, no, okay. And now when I select the torso here, controller, and rotate it, and go to the deformation layer, you can see that everything is following. So that's our basic here. And by doing this, if I was ever to create shape keys or so, they will work. Yeah, the model is really cool. It's made by Emmanuel Rolf still. I will link her ArtStation page in the description later on. She's the modeler for the game project. All right, so now we will build the arm rig, the full arm rig, so with a switchable IK to FK, and also we will rapidly rig the finger. So as you can see, I'm working only on the half of the character because he's symmetrical, and it's very easy to create symmetry on our character. So I will do it right now so that whenever we will create deformation on our rig, we will be able to see the result on the character. So I will go into edit mode and I will select all the bones that has to be mirrored. So a long time ago in a 4x4 space, you had to mirror the bone by hand, and that was pretty cumbersome, let's say. You had to place the 3D cursor like this and use it as a pivot, then duplicate the bone and mirror them. But the problem is that it oftenly messed with the bone rotation here, the bone roll, and you had to reset everything. So that was really not handy. But now for a pretty long time, but maybe you don't know this feature, you can symmetrize the bone by pressing a button, W, symmetrize, and that's it. And the roll is okay, everything is perfectly aligned. And to be able to enable this feature, let's say, you have to put the suffix .l for left with a capital L to all your bone on the side. And when you symmetrize, Blender will automatically set those bones to .r for right. Okay. So now I will parent the monkey to the rig with automatic weight so that it gets deformed automatically. So there will be a lot of weight painting to be done later on, but I think we should have at least some basic deformation that will give us cool information during our rigging. So what Blender will do is that he will create a vertex group when you do this for each bone that has the deformation property enabled here. The problem is that whenever you create new bones or extract them, they will have directly, so those one I've cleaned them up, this deformation property here. And if you have each time you create a new bone to uncheck this, this will take ages. Because I have some rigs where I have like 1,000 bone, and doing this by hand will be a pain. But what you can do is select everything and press Shift W, deform, and you can here enable or disable it, which is very handy. So now I know that all those bone doesn't have the deformation property enabled. So I can go back here, select my rig, select a bone, press Ctrl P to set parent armature deform with automatic weight. And now we should have some deformation. All right, that's enough to understand if our rigging is working fine. Hey Azerty, you're welcome. So I will now start rigging the arm as we have this. So what we will create is that I won't be caring about the end here for the time being. We will just duplicate this. So I will hide them in edit mode, and we will create first the FK chain. Super easy. Shift D to duplicate those bones, and I will move them aside on the y-axis. GY 1 unit. So that's, let's say 100 unit. No, that's too much. GY 50. It's just about readability. It doesn't matter. And I will duplicate it again for the upcoming IK chain. But this time I will get. Now we'll keep the shoulder bone here. I'm thinking, yeah, I will keep it. So I will duplicate this. Shift D, GY 50 units. And now I will name this control shoulder dot L, important. And you can see that they have the deform property again. So this will be this control arm fk dot L. Let's call it control forearm fk dot L and control end and fk. All right. Now I will get rid of the deformation property here for all those new bone. Shift W, deform, disable. And I will move them on another layer. We'll call this arm for the time being. Now let's call this arm fk.l and arm ik.l. Okay. So now I will move those on this layer and display everyone. So to create the FK chain, it's very easy. I go into pose mode. This is where you set the constraint. So you can set a constraint by simply adding it here. So I want to copy transform, select the armature and then the bone, but that's pretty tedious. What I will do is that I will select the bone, select the target and press Ctrl Shift C, copy transform. So now whatever I do here, if I scale it, etc., this bone will copy the transformation of this one based on the world space. So whatever if there are parenting rotation, etc., whatever happens, this will have transformation based on what we see. There is no local space stuff. So I will do it again here, copy transform and copy transform. So I don't do this here now, and I will explain you why. This is because I want this bone to be the shoulder controller for both the IK and the FK chain. So what I will do is that I will go into edit mode, get rid of this, delete bone, and I will parent the IK arm or the further IK arm to this shoulder. Keep offset. Okay. Now I can set the copy transform, and as it will copy the transformation of the bone, this will pop onto the other bone. Copy transform. You can see that it moved backward. I'm sorry, I don't read Cyrillic, so if you can type it in English. So now what I have to do is move this back into position, G minus 50 on the y-axis. And now if I select the ARM FK controller, everything is in place. Okay. So there is something lacking here. So I will hide the deformation and parent this to the deformation bone. So what I can do if I want this to happen also on this side is in the option, click X-axis mirror, and Blender will automatically mirror what I'm doing on the other side. Keep offset. So now I can see the relationship line here. So I'd say that this bone is parented to this one. And I can see this here in relation in the bone options. Okay. So we have set our FK chain. Super easy. Yeah, but hi from France to our Russian friends. I don't speak Russian, please write it in English. So let's switch to the IK. And here I will show you just a little tip, and we'll set the drivers then to be able to switch between those information. So I will get rid of the X mirror option, and I will extrude our IK control bones. So oftenly what people do is that they extrude their bone here and then they align it with the end bone so that the IK controller is aligned with the end, and when you move it, the end, if you set a copy rotation to the end, then the hand will move naturally with the bone. The problem is that if I will save this, I will open a new Blender scene. I haven't tested 2.8 for a while. I've tested it like when it was brand new, but didn't got that further in. So the problem is that whenever you align a bone, let's say a bit widely in the world space, when it comes to animation, it becomes pretty complicated. If I set here a location keyframe, and I will add another bone here, so that it will be easier. Let's set a location keyframe 2, and I will open the graph editor. The position and the axis of the bone are based on its initial position, and it follows the world space. What you see here for the curves are the local space of the bone. So if I move the Y curve here, you can see how the bone is moving, and this is very hard to figure out how to move your curve while animating to set a position in space. If I want to snap the bone, for example, on this point here, that will be pretty hard for me to figure how to move it. You can see when I move it on X, I have to go down, go back with X and go down, etc. That's very, very hard. While when your bone is aligned with the world space like this, it's very easy, because we are used to work with orthographic views when animating. So now you can see that I can easily figure out to move it. So what I will do is that I will extrude my IK controller, for example, backward, and then set a copy rotation to this bone, but this will be a bit complicated to figure out. What I can do though is to extrude the bone on the x-axis, and so it will be pretty much aligned with this one, but I won't rotate it, and so it will allow me, let's say, to figure more easily the position in space. I will just have to remember that my y direction is set by its x orientation, and the x direction is set by its y orientation. So we have here our control IK. Let's call it end.l. I will unparent it, that's important, because as it will be constraining this bone, if it's parented at the same time, it will give transformation information to this bone, and this one, by its parenting, will do the same. So you will have a cycle, I don't remember the name, but it will go crazy. So cycle dependency, yeah. So let's set an invert kinematic, and you have to set a length to it. So I want it to affect those two bones. The screencast key is here. I will make it bigger. Okay, something like that and like that. All right, so I will set a chain length of 2, and now when I move this bone, the elbow, or what we will call an elbow, is trying to fall. All right, and now I can add here to this bone, to our further controller for the end, a copy rotation from local space to local space. And now if I rotate this on its local Z axis by pressing Z twice, you can see the end following. But keeping its original state here. To fix so now I will set the constraints so that we can see how it looks on the deformation bones. I will select my arm here, then this one, and Control Shift to see a copy transform, and do this here, copy transform, and with our small bone here, drive the hand, copy transform. And since we have here our first copy transform for the FK chain with an influence of 100%, but it's overwritten by this one, or override by this one, because it's also at 100%. And so Blender will apply first this copy transform and then this one. So this will set the copy transform of this one first. So if I move it here, you can see what's happening on our character. But for the time being here, I can't really give an orientation or have a correct behavior of the arm. So you can set a better orientation by using a pull target. So I will extrude the bone, clear the parenting and move it backward. And I will parent it to our IK controller. And I will say to this chain, you can use a pull target, and this will be this bone. So I will copy its name and paste it into the constraint. And now I have to reset the orientation. You can see that it did get crazy. It's reversed the arm currently. So what I will do is select this and reset the pull angle at probably minus 180. So now I can easily move the arm and change its orientation. So this is one technique, but I don't like it that much. What I prefer to do is delete this pull target, go here and get rid of the pull here. and I will constrain this to rotate only on one axis. That will be the elbow axis. So it's Z rotation. Because if you think of your arm, I don't know if you can see it here, you can rotate like that, but you can't twist your forearm from the elbow. It will twist from the wrist like that, but you can see my elbow is not moving. And then the other orientation sorry, are set by the shoulder. So currently the elbow can rotate only on one axis. So if I select this, go into the bone properties here and invert kinematic, I can lock the X rotation and the Y rotation. And now you can see the elbow only rotates on its Z axis here. But the problem is that I can't rotate this. I can't set an orientation to the elbow. And the way to do it, well, I can't, no, I can. But to set a rotation to the elbow, you will have to rotate this bone. So why I prefer this is that it's way easier to figure out a rotation than a position of a flying object to set the orientation of the elbow. The only problem with this technique is that in certain position it will be buggy, because Blender will have an harder time to solve the orientation by this way than always trying to point to a pole target. When you have a point in space, the bone will just point to it. But I prefer to use this technique, and whenever I met like this some flipping issues, that's on some extreme poses, or poses that should not be how to say it, reachable. It's when you cross at a certain point the source. You can see that I can go extreme without a problem with this. The only thing you have to know is that to be able to set this, your bones here should be slightly rotated one in comparison with the other. If you align them perfectly, Blender won't know, okay, which direction do I have to bend initially. While here, with this slight, it's very subtle, but that's enough. With this slight rotation here, he knows that he has to bend this way. Okay, so now I will name those with CTRL control arm ik.l. This one is an MCH, we don't care about it. So I will create an MCH layer here, where I will store all the bones that are only mechanism bone. And this one also will be an MCH ikn.l. So I move it to the MCH here. So I have my chain here working, okay. I will just move it back in place. So I will go into edit mode, select those, G on the y-axis by -100 units, and now I have this and ooh, I was moving all the bone at the same time. This end rig that is working fine, and the shoulder I will make it available on both layers by shift clicking here. I can rotate the shoulder and the arm is following. So I need, I think, if I check something here, I think this bone is still parented to this one. And so yeah, it goes crazy because it copies the rotation just after. So the end is rotating, and I don't want that. I want the end to stay in place. So what I will do is that I will get back into edit mode. You can see it did go a bit crazy here. Oh, this is the copy transform. Yeah, that's weird. It's set to world space. Okay, let's reset this. This is my def and okay, MCHR here. What's happening to this bone? Copy rotation. Wow. Wow. Why did it got? Oh, I know. I forgotten to move it. Okay. It happens. So let's move this back. GY100 and the MCH here. Okay. It is now okay. So those only GY minus 100. So let's see now how it looks. So now when I rotate the end, nothing happens because I got rid of the copy rotation. So I will set it again, copy rotation from local space to local space. Now it rotates, and I need to set back the copy transform on the deformation bone. All right. So now I should have, yeah, this end rotating issue still. And this is because our MCH bone here is parented to this chain. So what I will do is that I will unparent it. Alt P clear parent. So now he's kind of floating, and this is also a problem. You can see that it really turns quite buggy. I needed to follow the position of this bone. So what I will do is that I will set a copy location here. And by default, it's set here in this position, and you can move it back to the tail here by sliding this. All right. So now it copies the rotation of my IK here. And it doesn't rotate anymore when I'm moving the arm. But it doesn't have any parent now, and so does the IK here. So I will make sure I parent them to the root here. Control P, keep offset, so that whenever I will move the whole rig, everything will follow. Yeah, yeah, for sure, sure. So Mr. Eskimo said that tutorials are always better if something goes wrong. Yeah, that's right. you need to show what may happen to you and how to fix it. Okay, so don't hesitate to ask if you have any question. We'll now build the switch for those to be able to switch from IK to FK control, because now if I enable the FK and try to rotate it, nothing happens. And what we will do is that we will simply create a driver onto this copy transform, which is the IK copy transform influence. So what I like to do first is to add a new bone, and I will make it bigger, Z, okay. Ooh. Put it here, and this will be our properties bone. I will disable deform and make it available on all the control layers. Okay. Now in pose mode, I will set a property. So you can set a property in any mode, but if you set the property in edit mode, you won't be able to access it while animating. And I sometimes see people adding custom properties to the rig, but the problem is that the rig won't be recording its properties into an action, and whenever you are doing animation, that won't work, because you will have an action for the influence and an action for the current animation. So what you have to do to avoid this, to make sure that the custom properties keying is written into the action, so into a single animation, you have to set it into the bone properties here. Go to custom properties, let's add a new custom properties, edit it and give it a name, ikfk.l, and I will click OK here. Don't touch anything else. I want the property to go from 0 to 1 and have some decimal here. So I press OK. And let's set a first driver, single. So I right click on the influence here, add driver, manually create later. And now when I will open the graph editor here and switch here from F curve to driver, it appears here. So I can click it, press the N key, and now I have access to the option for the driver. So I want to set a driver. I don't want to use a script expression, meaning that you can type math and stuff like this to get to a result. I want to use a value. So I will set it to average value. And I will right click on my property bone and copy the data path or RNA path of the custom property. Copy data path here. I will get back to my driver by selecting the bone which is holding it, and I want to use a single property taken from a bone from the monkey armature, and here he asked for a path. This is what we have copied just before. I will enter it, and now you can see there is no more bug information. And now when I go here onto properties while selecting this bone, I can change the influence. So we can't see anything yet, but if I move the arm, you can see that the arm, this part is not following the IK chain anymore, it is following the FK chain. And if I change the value here, you can see it getting back in place. So what I can do now is just duplicate this driver, copy driver, onto the other copy transform, past driver. And now as soon as I will move it, it will refresh, and you can see it snapping to the IK. Okay. So now if I display both IK and FK, I will, I don't know which I'm selecting here. Okay, this is the FK chain. You can see I can set a position and set another one for the IK, and here switch from one to the other. And I can use keyframe and animate this value, which is super important. All right, so our arm rig is done. We will now create the end rig, which will be very easy. So I will Alt H, show all the bone here, and I will duplicate this palm bone that will allow me to create this wavy deformation of the end by adding a copy rotation with different influences on each bone. And I will copy those bones also. Let me think. No, I will do only one. So the thing is that I won't be animating all the fingers one by one. I will be animating all the 4 with only one bone, because in the very beginning for this rig, for this game, we didn't animate the finger at all. And lately I've started to animate them. Honestly, from the game point of view, that's very subtle. You can't see it. But for the main characters, like the bosses, etc., I've done it and it's a bit better. So I will do it also for this one, because you can create follow through animation when you can move the ends. So I will press tab to enter edit mode, duplicate those bones and move them onto the arm FK here, and also onto the arm IK. I will hold this control palm, ctrl palm.l. This one I will make it slightly bigger. So I'm using the individual origin point, so that when I scale it, it scales from its head, I think, yeah. And I will extrude another bone, and I will align it with this one, because let's say I've extruded it like that. I want it to be aligned here. I will select it first and then this one, and I think it's Control Alt A. Yeah, Control Alt A to align bones and scale it down. This will be the control finger .L, and this one control finger rotation. So the idea here is to use 2 bones to give orientation to the fingers and then be able to rotate them. I will make this one slightly smaller so that we can see it when walking, and go back to the deformation bones, and I will set in pose mode a copy rotation. So for this one I can keep it from word space to word space. I want it to follow the rotation of this bone, but for the other one I want to fall off. So I will select it again, the controller, Control Shift C copy rotation, and I will switch from local to local, and I will start to add some lower influences, so 0.7 for, and this one copy rotation, same thing, let's say 0.3. So now when I will rotate this bone, the other will follow like that. And so we can set the position we want. It's pretty decent already. Maybe here a little less, like 0.6, a little more. Yeah, and that's it. I have this palm controller that is done. You can see it moves pretty naturally. So very easy thing. Now I will do the same for those bones using this one. So this will be our orientation controller. Control Shift C copy rotation from local space to local space. And now when I rotate this bone, this one follow. I will hide it. And if I want to set exactly the same constraint to the other bone, I can select them, then make the one with the constraint active, get to pose constraints, copy constraint to selected bones. Now when I unhide my controller, everyone is following. And so I can do exactly the same with this rotation controller. Control Shift to see copy rotation, local space to local space. So the important thing here is to make sure that those two bones are aligned with the initial rotation of those. And you can see every z-axis are pointing up. Okay, this one. And so now I will hide this, select all other finger bone, and constraints, copy constraints. Now I can rotate the fingers here and here. So now we can do the same for the thumb here. I will go into edit mode, duplicate this bone, make it bigger, move it on those layers, extrude another bone, shorter, let's say like that, align it with the control bone, Control Alt A, call this control thumb, and this one control thumb rotation. In pose mode, I will select the thumb here, copy rotation, and this one a copy rotation from local to local, and copy its constraint to the last one. All right. So the end rig is now done. You can see it's pretty fast. I mean, when you are used to it, for sure. So those MCH bone, I will move them back here to the MCH, and this is IK. Okay. Control FK has to go here. So now I have my eye care rig that is ready. Hey Ungunst. So we have our arm rig with a switchable property here, which is very handy. Let's now rig the head. So I will just move this one torso here to the torso currently, and make the MCH folder here. Move them right there and here. Get rid of the name. Okay. So now I have my torso controllers. I will make sure they are parented to this one. Okay, it's already parented, so you can move it like that. Okay, perfect. So the torso, we have already rigged the spine here. I'd like to rig the neck and the head. So I will duplicate those two bones, Shift D, in edit mode. And I will move them here so that I'm free to work on them easily, and hide the deformation. I will call those bones target bones, meaning that they will have different constraints and they will copy the transform on the deformation bones, but they may not be our main controller, and if they are, sorry, I will use them later on. I will rename them, sorry. So this will be target, neck, TGT, for me and target head. Now I can set directly the copy transform, so from the target head to the def head copy transform, and from the target neck to the def neck. Okay. So what I want to create is a single bone to rotate both the head and the neck, and be able to then rotate them separately if I want. So this is super easy. I will extrude the bone on the z-axis like that, and this will be our control head, and I will simply set a copy rotation to the neck. Oh, it's flipped. So to rotate a bone on its local Y, to change the role, you press Ctrl R and then 180. Okay. And I will set it to local, from local to local space. And now when I rotate it, the neck follow. Okay. But I can't rotate the neck anymore. And you can enable it when using a local space by clicking the offset here. So now I have control, and then it add the rotation from the constraint. Super handy. And I want a slight movement of the neck, so I think a 0.3 should be okay. Yeah, we'll see later on if it's enough. And I will set another copy rotation, but this time to the head, from local space to local space. I think I have the movement from the neck, yeah, maybe a bit more, like 0.4. Yeah, I think it's moving nicely. So he's losing his teeth here because Blender doesn't know where to at which bone parent them, but we'll fix this later. Okay. Now what I would like is that when I rotate here the torso, I'd like the head not to rotate, or at least to be, I'd like to be able to control this, to be able to set it like this or set it like this, because you generally don't move like that. And even in a movement where the head will follow, I prefer not to have the rotation, because you need to counter animate. I prefer to have the head still and place it as I want along the way. So to do this, we need to unparent this head controller here. I will clear the parenting. But now the problem is that when I rotate the torso, those bones that doesn't follow the position, and this is gonna be quite complicated while animating. So what I will do is that I will add a copy location from this bone to those. So here I will add a copy location set to the tail, and I don't know if I need to set it also on the neck bone. Yeah, I will have to. Okay, I think I'm missing something here, but let's try. Okay, so now I can rotate the torso, and then my head controller, and it reacts pretty nicely, and I can still tweak the neck position here. But I don't have any control whether I want it to follow or not the how to say the rotation of the torso. And to do this, we need another bone. I will extrude one bone here that will be parented to the torso, so it will follow the torso. And then I just need to add a copy rotation to my controller here. And whenever I dial in, I will be able to set whether it follows the torso or not. So I will extrude a new bone. We'll call this MCH neck. So this bone is parented to the torso and it does follow the rotation of the torso. So if I set to this bone here a copy rotation, Ctrl+Shift+C copy rotation. Ooh, it's flipped again. That's weird. Yeah, it's flipped. Okay. Ctrl+R 180. Okay. You can see that the head is following. But if I dial down the copy rotation, the head is no more following. So if I add a driver here and a custom property, I will be able to work on this follow rotation property. So let's add here a new custom property onto our properties bone here. Edit the name, neck follow. Click OK, copy the data path here, go onto our controller, add a driver, add driver, manually created later, open the drivers here, so graph editor, and it should refresh driver. So it will be again an average value of a single property from the armature. Update dependencies. And now if I rotate this and change the property here, you can see it doesn't follow anymore. Alright. So now I can make some cleanup. This will be our neck tweaking bone. So it's a controller, control neck tweak, and this will be the control head tweak. Okay, so now I can rotate both at the same time or rotate one or the other individually, and I can set the follow of the neck and the head. So you oftenly do this for the torso and mainly for the end to follow the neck, so that you have the neck to rotate in other way. So generally you place this switch also between the head and the neck joint, but I know I won't be using it while animating this specific character, so I won't be adding this option. Also the neck follow, I don't think I will be using it. So so what I could do here, maybe make this smaller so that it's easier for me to read. Okay, fine. And those will be on our torso. So I will probably create a new layer torso tweak to be able to remove those bones from the main view. So now we'll create the leg rig. So it will be only an IK rig, because on my former character I used to make also an FK switch for this game, I mean, and I don't use it really often. Honestly, if you have a kick, it might be useful if you have a roundhouse kick, but in the other case you mainly have this IK movement, and also I'm getting used to animate IK for curvy movement. This is why curve editor is so important, because you can set progression in time of the movement, while when you only keyframe IK movement, it looks a bit robotic. You don't have those curves. But we will see this in the animation stream. So let's enable the legs here, and I will just create a chain of targeting, a chain of target bone. So I will go into edit mode, Shift D, move them on the x-axis by 50, and call those targets. Please ask question if you have. Hey Stepanov, thank you. Finally TGT toe. And let's set a copy transform. And I won't set it to this bone for the time being, because it will go crazy. If I do, or what I will do is, for the time being, I will set it from local to local, so that we can see our IK without moving those. So the first thing I want is to create the IK. So I will extrude the bone on the y-axis here, and unparent it. And I will set my IK constraint. So Control Shift C, invert kinematic on 2 bones, and I will lock as for the elbow. The knee will only rotate on the z-axis here. You can't twist your knee, or if you do, you will have some severe injuries. So I will select this bone and lock both X and Y. Yeah, X and Y, as I don't want to use a pole target. So Rayonet asks, I have a question. How do you get a retopo and rest pose from a sculpt already in a position? Do you have to start over, or can you possibly skip the rest pose? No. If you have sculpted a character in a strange pose and you have done the retopology, then you will have a model like that. The rest pose must be onto your model, and then you rig in rest pose. Or you can rig in pose, but the problem is that your original pose, the rest pose, will be this one. And you can't then reset a position like that, where you say, okay, this is the rest pose. Honestly, rigging character in that is not into a T or A pose or rest pose, that's a very bad idea, I think. And it's gonna be very hard. So now I can rotate this like that, and it looks quite nice. Hold on, yeah, I've forgotten something. Yeah, very important thing, and I've forgotten it on the arm. So those target bones here, I need to create another chain before. So I will get rid of the IK, because I want to avoid the knee popping. Okay, so I need to duplicate those. Shift D, X, 50. And this will be the MCH. And you will understand why very rapidly. MCH shin, MCH leg. So as you can see, I want to add another function, so I'm creating new new parenting, etc. And this will be an MCHIK, because we won't be controlling this directly. So I will set here a copy transform. And now I will set to my MCH Ctrl+Shift+C an invert kinematic with a chain of 2 and with those locked, which is already the case. That's weird. And so now when I move my MCH, the target bones do exactly the same. But what I'd like to do to avoid, maybe not, but this this effect here. Ooh, that's weird. I think I haven't, I haven't locked this one. I haven't locked the correct one, maybe. Ooh. X and Y. That's pretty weird. Maybe the initial rotation is not good. I don't understand why it's locked like this. Okay. And why it does flip like that much. Let's see. Copy transform, no problem. IK, no problem. And a copy transform. So I think it's what I told you before, it's my original position, which is not it might not be bent enough, I believe, for it to solve the problem without a pulled target. So yeah, I will have, in this very case, so you can see for the leg, I will have to use a pulled target. So let's use one. I will extrude the bone here, E, Y, and clear its parenting, move it forward, and I will parent it to the IK here, so that when I move the foot, it will follow. And this will be our pole target. And to my constraint here, my IK, I will select the pole target. And I think it didn't move. Yeah, it seems okay now. So now, yeah, he has a target to follow. So what I'd like to add is to avoid, sorry for the long debugging here. You see when you reach this distance here, the knee goes back in position super fast. So the knee popping, you can avoid it by adding a bit of stretching to your bone. So when you go here onto the bone with the IK constraint, I can slightly increase the stretch, and until I keep it under 0.1, the bone will stretch at the very last time. If I set it to an high value like this, you can see it always stretch and the knee is not bending anymore. But if I set it to 0.1, now the knee is trying to bend before stretching. So like that, but you can see it's a bit weird, and this is because you have to also give this property to the upper bone here, so that they kind of share the stretching. And now I can have a rotation here that looks more nice, but the problem is that it's scaling the bone that are underneath. This is why you get this very big leg and stuff like that. So I will just reduce the value to 0.05. Okay. So to avoid this, and this is why I have created another chain, is to set, instead of having a copy transform here onto those target bone under, I will set a copy rotation first. So from the IK to the target copy rotation, and then a copy scale. And I will only enable the Y from local to local. And I will repeat this on the upper bone, copy rotation, get rid of this, copy scale from local to local, and only the Y-axis. Now you can see if I go here, how it stretches more naturally. Because it's only extending, you don't have this awkward effect where it gets very, very big. Okay. So now let's create the foot roll. So I'm always struggling to remember exactly how to do it, to be honest, but generally I remember. So, so first of all, we don't need. Sorry, I have a phone call. I will just. Okay. We can get rid of this, I think. Where is the copy transform? It's here. Okay. So I will get rid of those bones. Sorry. Like that, and I will set the copy transform from those two because I had an unwanted chain here. So let's get rid of this, copy transform and copy transform. So now they follow the movement of those. So what I want to create is the heel and roll of the foot and the fact that the foot will rise when you create this. To do so, you need to set your pivot point. So I will go into edit mode here. I will just keep those bones by hiding all others. And I will extrude the bone here toward the point I think that will be the point of rotation, and I will clear the parent here. I will then extrude another bone on the Z-axis, clear the parenting too, and I will duplicate this bone on the Y-axis. This will be our controller. Okay, so let's call this MCH foot roll, CH roll foot, and this will be the secondary O2, and this will be our control roll foot.L. So for the time being, nothing happens. What I want to do is to make this rotate this way when this part is raising, and rotate backward from this point when the foot is getting back. So to do so, what I can do is parent this bone to this one. So I select it first and then this one. So now in pose mode, I can rotate this bone like that, as we want, and also like this. Okay, but I need to create some automation. So what I will do is set a copy rotation here from local space to local space. No, not so many bones. That's really super simple. And I will set also a copy rotation here. So now what I want is that when I will rotate this bone forward, I want only this bone to rotate. So I have to limit the rotation of this one by adding a constraint limit rotation, and it will be the X rotation here. So I can directly set this one to Euler and get rid of all the rotations, so that when I rotate it now, I can't rotate it on the other axis. So the limit rotation will be on the x-axis in its local space, and let's try to rotate backward here and see if nothing happens. So that should be the minus value, minus 180, and forward it just stop, and we just need to add the same constraint here. Limit rotation on the x, minimum 0, max 180 in its local space. And now I have this movement. So now if I parent the IK to this bone, keep offset, the IK controller, this bone, the bone that make the foot to move, will follow this rotation. So we have this effect now. But I don't want the foot to be following and rotating when I do this. So what I will do is that I need to unparent the bone from this chain, but I still wanted to copy the location of it. So what I can do is that I will unparent it, and I will set here a copy location to the tail. So now it doesn't rotate, and I want it now to rotate along the IK. That's pretty weird that I feel like I have a strange behavior of the heel, but we will see. So what I want is I want to have the same orientation with this one. So I will align this bone with the IK. So I select the IK, then this one, Control Alt A, and I will select the IK controller, so MCH IK, and scale it down. And now I will set a copy rotation to our target bone. Now you can see, so yeah, I don't know if it was very clear. If you have any question, please ask. Okay, but now as the IK follow the rotation of this bone, as it is parented, it follows this movement around the toe and around the how to say, around the heel. Okay, and it follows also the rotation of the IK target, not of the shin, so it behaves this way. And now to have this, to let the toes follow onto the ground, I need to add a copy rotation, but I never remember which one is. I think it's from this bone. Never remember. And if I invert it, maybe. No, it's not this way. So I think it will be this one. Yeah, that makes sense because it doesn't have any limitation from local space to local space. And I need a counter rotation. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I don't want it to rotate on X nor Z. So now I have this this effect. So we have a slight movement, and I think this is due to the stretching. So to avoid this, that's pretty complex, and here it's pretty subtle of a bug. So this is due to the IK stretching. If I get rid of it and set it to 0 here, I should not have this movement anymore. You see, the foot stays still on the ground. This is because there are some issues for Blender to solve the IK with the stretching, and as we are setting the position of the foot from the IK controller, that's a bit buggy, but yeah. So then it's about what you want. Do you want to have this stretching effect or this possibility, or do you want to avoid this strange movement? So I've made a couple of tutorials about this where I solved this problem, but you need to build another chain with a stretching constraint and stuff like this, which is pretty advanced, and I don't know if I will be able to redo it live like this without thinking that much. So I prefer to avoid this. 0.05 here, copy and paste it. So now we just need a global controller for the foot. So I will select this bone, for example, extrude it on the y-axis and clear the parenting, and I will move it like that, and I will parent all the controllers that doesn't have any parent. So this one is not parented, and this one, Control P, keep offset. Now I need to check if everything's follow. You can see this little offset due to the stretching. This is what creates the bug when there is a contact with the ground. But yeah, that's I prefer to avoid the popping and have the possibility, especially on stylus character, to stretch a bit the character like this, stretch a bit. So I have this that will allow me to control the world foot, and this to make the bone roll. And then I just need to check my copy rotation here and create an offset so that it will allow me to control the rotation of the toes afterwards. So let's call this control toe.l. Also, when I've built this one, the main controller, I've made sure by extruding it inside view that it is aligned with the world space. So reading the curve of the position of the foot will be very easy then. So this will be our control foot.l. So I don't do the FK switch, so I just call it control foot, and this control roll foot. So these are our bone controller. I will just move them onto another layer here. So I will keep space for the arm. Let's put it here. Leg ik.l or leg L, as I will only be working with ik, and move those controllers there. And I will parent this one to the controller bone 2, and the control bone I will parent it to the main root bone. Control P, keep offset, and I should have done this also for the IK, which is here, I think. Yeah, control IK. Yep, it was already okay. Now I can move all other bone as an MCH, because I won't be using them, so I need to offset everyone first. But let's move them. So on the MCH layer here, MCH, and my leg L. So I move this back in place, gx minus 50, gx minus 100. Okay. Now if I hide those controller and the deformation bone, I have a foot controller and this. So that's weird. I have the, oh yeah, it copied the rotation also backward. Right, that's fine, that's fine. And I have this foot heel rotation, which this is not a problem. It's following the rotation. That will be very easy to figure out how to rig and how to animate, because then I just have to set the position, and when you will lift its foot, that's gonna be great. I have a question. Aren't you have hey, Cartoon Shaman? Once you have created this kind of armature, it is easy to adapt to another mesh. More or less, yes. I've done this a lot for this game because the first roster, the first clan or race of creature, they were mostly human. And so the base rig here, I've duplicated a lot and applied it to other character. And to change the proportions, you have to be very careful. And this is why you need to organize everything cleanly. But if, for example, I have a character with a big forearm, I need to enable every bone. Go into edit mode, select everything, and make sure I move all the joints together like this, and so I can move the end, and all the functionalities we have built before will stay. But that's, yeah, that's a bit risky, but I'm used to do this. But yeah, that's a good question, and yes, I do it, so you can definitely, but you have to be very careful. So leg rig is done for this side at last. Okay, so what do we need now to rig is the feathers. That's gonna be super simple, and the clothes, and finally the tail. So for the tail, I will go a bit more advanced and create secondary controllers that will allow us to position each joint here as we want, and also have something automated, which will be fine. But first of all, I need to pee, so I will let you wait just for a little sec. I'll be back like in 5, no, maybe 1 minute. Okay, I'll see you in 1 minute. All right. I'm back online. So, let's rig first the feathers, because this is going to be one of the simplest thing to rig here. So I will create another layer here, and I will call this feather or clothes. Generally, I add everything in the same spot. Let's say I will just duplicate this bone here, and currently what I want to do, Shift D S, it's just to create a bone that will allow me to orientate the feather and another one to flip them, just as we have done for the fingers. So that's very straightforward. I will align them, Control Alt A. This will be our controller, CTRL feathers top, because I will have a secondary controller for the side, and this will be the top rotation. And I will set here, so in object mode, a copy rotation on this bone, copy rotation from local space to local space, and to the other one, a copy rotation from the other bone. I will expand it by duplicating the pose constraint copy, and now you can see I'm rotating this to make the flip. I will switch to stick, or maybe, yeah, you can see, no, you can't see anything now. So those to close here, and switch display to stick. Let me reopen the chat. Okay. Okay, you can see. So there are a lot of weight painting to be done, but that's fine. So now I can copy this constraint to the other bone. So those ones here, the one for the top feathers only, and then those for the side, that will be exactly the same, but with another controller. So pose constraints, copy constraints, and then select all the following ones and copy these constraints, pose constraints, copy constraints. Okay. So now when I rotate this bone, also the horns are attached. That's a problem of weight painting, but you have the idea that the feathers are following here. So I will do the same with one bone on the side here, this one, Shift D. I will move this to close, make it bigger, extrude a rotation bone, align it with this one, Control Alt A, call this control feather side, sorry, side.L, copy the name, paste it here at the rotation. It's just the naming is very important for your organization, but it doesn't influence anything else but the pose library I've talked about in the beginning. Control Shift C, add the copy rotation to this bone from local space to local space. Is it possible eventually to render the bones as if they were meshes? I don't know. I never tried, and I don't think so, but I don't know. Honestly, I see what you mean, but and in case of a demo reel or stuff like this, it could be very interesting. But what you can do is switch to local view. Is to make your current render, and then make an OpenGL render. Yeah, OpenGL render, and you put it in After Effects or whatever on top of it. So if you give them some color, you will easily get rid of the background by making a color selection mask or thing like this. Okay, so my constraint here, sorry, add here a copy rotation to local space to local space. No, that's wrong, not the right bone here. No, I don't know to convert them to mesh. Alt C maybe. Alt C. Yeah. So let's try Shift D. I will duplicate the mesh here and press Alt C, mesh from curve. And now it's still a rig, so it doesn't work. Okay. Let's duplicate those constraints. And here we are. Yeah, but you won't be able, I think, to render the bones in Eevee. I'm not sure, but yeah. Just have a try. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so now those follow and those follow. Okay, perfect. So let's do this rapidly for the close. The only thing for this part here is that I'm not sure I want it to follow the hips, so that when it moves, if I select the torso here, I'm not sure I want them to rotate this way. I prefer to have the claws staying still, and then I can rotate them by hand. So what I will do is that I will go to my deformation bones here. Let me think. I will move them so that it's clearer, like that. Okay, so those made this part rotating. So let's build first the outline. So I think I will do only one controller for both. No, I will do two controllers because there might be an offset between the front and back movement. So let's go into edit mode, duplicate those bones, scale them, and extrude another one like that. Okay. Control Alt A to align them. Now I will set a copy rotation, but here this bone is aligned with this one, so I will set a copy rotation in world space. So whatever the orientation of the main bone, the small one will follow, and that will help for sure. And now I can set my secondary constraint here, copy rotation, this time from local to local space, and repeat this on this bone. Okay. All right, so now I have this effect, but I'd like to avoid those here to follow the hips. I want them to stay still like that, so I don't want them to copy the rotation of this of the hip. Sorry. So what I will do is that I will create an intermediate bone. So let's select those, extrude them on the z-axis like that, and those two bones will be parented to the hip. Keep offset, and these are going to be MCH bone, MCH close back, that's fine. And so I will tell those bones here to be parented to the torso so that they follow the torso. And if I rotate it, they will follow, but I don't want them to follow the rotation of the hip when I'm using the hip individually. So I will parent them to this bone, and then I will tell them to copy the location of this one, so that if the hip rotate on the side, the claws will follow but won't rotate. So a copy location from this bone to this one, a copy location too. Now when I rotate the hip, you can see the claws are following but are still pointing toward the ground. Hey Ngon, have a good class. And I still have this rotation effect. Okay, so these are my close controller, and those are MCH bone, and those are the deformation bones. Okay, so now we only have the tail to be rigged and will be done, so that's gonna be pretty fast. We are slowly reaching 2 hours of streaming. That's going so fast, that's crazy. So let me know if you would like to see anything else about this model, maybe or I will achieve weight painting or stuff like this. So what I will do is that I will duplicate the chain of the tail here, Shift D. I will move it on the Z axis by 20 units. That's gonna be fine. And I will create another chain, Shift D, Z 20. So the first chain will behave as the feathers and the claws. So I will duplicate this bone and make it longer, EY, like that. This will be the control tail, and this will be the control tail rotation. Okay, so I will add here a control Shift C copy rotation, and here a copy rotation from local to local. Alright, so I have this and I can change the orientation. So you can easily create flapping movement and flowing, or I don't remember the name, follow through animations like this. But now I would like to be able to control each joint position. So what I will do is that I will extrude new bones here, and these are going to be our control tweak tail. And now I will constrain this other chain here. So first I want to create a stretch 2 constraint, but first I need to clear the parenting of everything here. Clear parent. Why it doesn't select those? The P clear parent. Okay. Now I can parent this one to this one, Control P, keep offset, etc. The tailbone to the previous tweaking bone, And now in pose mode, I will set the constraint damp to. This will allow us to have a tracking effect without the bone to flip. You can see that it tried to keep its orientation. In Maya, they call this the look at constraint. It's like you're rotating the head, but you're not rotating it like this to follow something in the air. You keep it with your z-axis upward. And I want it to stretch also, so I will add a stretch to constraint. And now it does stretch. So now I can repeat this. Damped track stretch 2, because if you have only if you add only the stretch 2, you will have the bone flipping. That's why we always add both, and you have to first set the orientation, so the damp track first and then the stretch 2. So then once you've constrained the orientation, you can pull or push it. And now I have the possibility to move each joint. And so if I want this chain to obey the first one, I will just have to parent this bone to this one, etc. So I will get back into edit mode. And as it is parented, it will follow the movement. But as a child, without any constraint, I will be able to animate it at will. So now if we have a look at this, so the rotation is offset, so that's gonna be weird, but you have something as soon as I will align them one on top of each other. Yeah, that's better. When you do animation and you do if you do rigging, that's a good thing to make some animation too, because you will be more aware of the constraint you are facing, especially with bone orientation. Because when you are doing pure rigging, you're more obsessed by the deformation than the functionality then. And when you are an animator, having some rigging notions is important, because you can fix some rig, or you can understand betterly how your animation will behave and how to control it based on a rig analysis. So now I will set a copy transform to the bone chain here. And in this case, I'm also wondering if I want the tail to follow the rotation of the hip, because it will also have a follow-through animation, and I might have to counter-animate a lot when rotating the body. So I don't know. I will move everything in place first. Let's create a tail layer for the time being, just to tail, and move those. I will move them on another layer, and so will I do with those, so that it will be easier to recover if I need to move them back again. So GZ minus 20, I think, yeah, and minus 40, GZ minus 40, and now that they are aligned, they will behave properly. So if I set display only render, you can see how it moves. So there is weight painting to be done for sure. but I can now rotate the tail like that and then move it separately if I want. There is a slight offset though, and I don't know why, so that's why separating them was not that stupid. So here it has a copy transform. So when I rotate those, here I have this offset. Copy rotation. Yeah, that's okay. That's probably a parenting problem also. Maybe I have to reset the stretch. No, I don't think so. It will probably be a problem of parenting at some point. I don't understand why I have this offset between the different parts here. I have a parenting problem here. Okay, so I think it's on this chain here. Control tweak tail. And this one. Yeah, def tail. Okay, I should name them first. If I've done this before. So those are only MCH. So by naming them, I should be able to see where the problem is. You haven't parent correctly the second bone. Yeah. I also think so. That the second one is following the behavior of the previous chain, which is kind of weird. This one here, I think control tweak, or this one, I'm not sure, but so those are also MCH. Let's call them MCH tail tweak. Ha, such a suspense. That's boring, renaming stuff. So okay, if I move this, this is the deformation. Wow. It has a copy transform, so it should perfectly follow the second bone. You make small mistake then parenting bones few minutes ago. Yeah. So you mean maybe on this chain. So this has to be parented to the hips, okay, and this one to the tail, MCH tail 1. Yeah, which is fine. Control tweak tail 1, this one, yeah. And on the tail there is no strange behavior, I guess. Ooh, maybe. Nope. And the strange thing is that The tail has a copy transform. Ooh. That's annoying, copy rotation. Or maybe one of those is not parented to the good one. That would make sense. Sorry. So this one has to be parented to this one. Is already. Oh, this one too. Yeah. They are all already correctly parented. So I will do this again. I'm sorry for that. That was the final touch of the rig, and it's just bugging me out. Why this one is behaving like that? Maybe I will just try something with clearing the parenting of those. Okay, so now I can see there's a problem here. So, oh no, this one is still behaving super weirdly even with parenting disabled. Wow. Dev tail, no. Clear parent. Thank you. Now it seems to look better. Yeah, it does. So everything is aligned, but I don't understand how I fixed it and where it is now. Ah, okay. It's on the wrong chain, maybe. I can't even see it now. That's super crazy. Where are you? Oh, he's copying the... it seems to be somewhere here. Copy transform. Wow. I will get rid of the constraint here. And I wanted to get copy transform from this bone. Yeah, I think that there was a problem with the copy transform here. I may have set the wrong bone in the chain. So now it seems to behave more properly, and I should be able to reconnect those bones. But it might be something I want to avoid for export later on, but now it behaves more as it should be. You can see that I can rotate this, rotate that, and then have control on each single position. I will disconnect them because with the stretch option here I might have problem while exporting, because it will export deformation bones, and so if they are parented it may copy the transformation just after. That's a bit tricky. It's about but like that it's okay, it worked, but just for exporting case, those are very specific stuff, it might be problematic. So I will press Alt P, clear parent, not for this one, but this one. Okay, so now I can move those to be back in deformation, and I won't be controlling those, so those are MCH bone. And this is the tail controller, so I will move them here, and here move those two on the tail controller. So now I have a more complex tail rig. So if I do another streaming, I think I will, about rigging, maybe I will show you how to set a spline I key or other kind of rigging, but I won't be using them for video games because they can be a bit buggy. So now what I would like is to be able to mirror everything I have done onto the other side. And that's pretty simple since our character is mirror. I will just display everything, go into edit mode here, and I will select everything on the right and get rid of it. And since the symmetrize option works perfectly, it will also symmetrize the constraints. I also have to rig the mouth. It's gonna be just a copy transform. So everything is selected here on one side. I will get rid of those bones. Select all bone on the other side. So make sure you don't forget any bone. And let's symmetrize this and see if there is any problem. So the IK seems to work. It does, yeah. Ah, I'm missing one bone here. This one. So let's get back. Yeah, I've forgotten it in edit mode. Oh, it's not named properly, probably. That's why it did, yeah. It's not named properly. .l. Okay. So as it doesn't add the suffix .l, Blender wasn't able to figure it has to be mirrored. Okay. So now it should be okay. W symmetrize, go back there. So now I have my IK controller here, and I'm able to rotate the fingers. Thumb is okay. I have this control, so the leg here are flipped, and this is because it didn't symmetrize the pole target. So I will call this .l, I will symmetrize it, and I will set here on my IK constraints the pole target when I have it. Okay, control here R, and set the pole angle to 180. Yep, works fine. Okay, so the shoulder also moving good, and for the feathers there seems to be moving along the way. Okay, okay, so everything is now mirrored. So yeah, I think we are nearly done now, so I will just organize everything properly by adding a torso tweak here. And move the neck controllers here. I need an arm, wait, torso MCH, the target bones. So I don't know, no, it's empty now, so there is nothing here. Okay, tail, legs, okay. So arm ik.r arm fk.r. So we need to copy our constraints, our drivers and properties. So this is the control arm ik, so this is going to be here. This one is the fk, control arm fk. This is control ikn, so ik. And this is the palm, and the fingers should go on both. Alright, something like this. Leg dot r, let's see what we have. So those bones, I will switch them on this layer, and we have this tail layer. I will move everything to cloth, sorry, as I don't need two layers to control so few bones. Okay, so now let's create bones group so that it will look nice and organized. So it's here in the armature properties. Let's go to bone groups, and I will also need to, don't forget to duplicate my properties for the other side. So let's create a first group that we will call root, and let's assign the root bone. I will create a second one which will be torso, and set its color to red, and I will set all the torso bone to it, and they will turn to red. And also in the dope sheet and in the curve, their stack will be red, so it will be easier to identify them. And I will also set both tweaker here in this group, so I can hide those. Now I will set the arm FK color. So let's select everyone here, add an arm fk.l, set it to the next color, do the same here, create a new group, arm fk.r, and set another color. I will do the same with the IK. So maybe I don't need, I don't need to separate the group. I will just keep it like this, because generally when I start an animation in IK or IFK, I finish it in the same mode, so having those in the same group should be okay. Alright, so I have my arms here. Okay. And finally the legs. Leg.l, leg.r, so this is the left, let's set it to blue, and the right here, set it to pink. Okay, so now I will switch to stick. That's gonna be easier to see. I can get rid of the axis for the time being, for the axis, sorry, not the X-ray. and I just need to rig the mouth so it will be just a copy transform, and then set the properties to the other bones. So I go into edit mode, duplicate those, move them to torso here. This is going to be the control jaw one. So I have two bones, which is not currently correct because you have only one jaw bone, let's say, or it rotates only on one axis. But I like to create follow-through animation on this kind of thing, like the jaw is a bit smooth. It's more stylish. So I will set a copy transform from the control to the depth, copy transform, and those two bones will be in the torso group. You know, something like you when you close the mouth, this one is gonna be like this, and when the mouth is closed, it's gonna be pop, like that. But here the weight paint is really bad. As a beginner, what can I do to increase my knowledge of rigging so that I can make more advanced rig and controls? Well, first you can follow the stream. There is the Rigging Human Biped by Nathan Vegdahl, which is still the best rigging tutorial series you will ever find. So I think it's still available as a DVD on blender.org, and I also think you can find part or full of the course on YouTube. I'm not sure about this. Rigging, biped rigging or principle of rigging by Nathan Vegdahl. If you go onto blender.org, I think it's in the store because it was an official one. Or you can wait for my future course to be available, which will still take time because I hardly find time to record more and more. So yeah, I'm quite late, but yeah, hopefully it will be before summer, I hope. And then you have, yeah, follow, there is Dan Pro. Dan Pro is DANPRO, is a top rigger with a lot of tutorials on his channel. Very nice tutorial, all labor oriented, and he explains everything very well. So I can definitively recommend its channel. So I will just create the latest property here. So it will be an ik/fk.r. okay, and I will check if my DMCH, I think bones here, I will hide the MT. That will be easier. So yeah, they don't have the driver anymore, so I will copy this one and paste it here. And now if I check my properties here, I see that the name is .r. So if I go in the drivers here, you see it's still .l because I've copied and pasted the previous driver. I just have to switch it to R, and it will read this property here. And now I can copy the driver and paste it on the other copy transform here. Okay, so let's test it. It's the arm.r. If I move the IK here and the FK in another position and switch, it works without problem. So we have set bone groups, etc. We will make some cleanup, meaning that I will reset and remove deformation from all our controllers bones here. Shift W, deform, disable. Make sure that the control bones doesn't have any deformation properties. Okay, and I will run a little script to be able to have the UI here, the bone list. So what I will do is that I will save first, very important. I will import it from the previous rig, the spider rig. So it was like here, here, text, spider rig. And I will explain you how I've done this before. I will call this monkey, doesn't matter, and I will run it. So I will split those two and open the text editor. So you can see now I have those information here, and they are written just right there. So the root bone is on layer number 1, so index 1 is okay. So you have just to know that the first one is 0. So if you want to have this to appear here, you have to set the index to 0. So currently index is the line we can see here, and then I can give it a name. So the torso here is not the right bone, it's one of the arm. So if I check here, it's layer name number 3, so it's the index number 3. And if I run the script again, now you can see my torso bone are on the right layer. So I can duplicate those. Control C, Control V, and I will call this arm. This is the text that will appear in the UI. I will just check so I have an IK and FK, so let's duplicate this again, and I will say IK before. Okay, oops, like that. So let's run it again. So we have our list here. So the arm FKR is on layer number 9. So here it's number 9. IK is supposed to be 8. So arm IK here will be 8. IKL is 5. And so FKL should be 4. Which is already, let's try it. So I have two layers. I will get rid of the MCH, arm L, okay, and the IK works too, okay. And finally I have those legs, which will be the 10 and 11. So first is 11 here, and 10. So now I have those two, okay. And finally, I haven't created a bone group for the cloth. So let's copy this one here. It's the layer number 12. And run the script. And now I should have here, call this close, run script, a close here, stuff. And this is nice because it's less invading than and easier to read than the how to say it, the bone layers. Bone layers are great to build your your rig, let's say, but then to work with it's easier to have this like that. So I will create another group here, cloth, and assign it here. And I need also a torso tweak, so I will duplicate this one for the neck bone. I can see that they are still appearing here. Torso tweak, even if I won't use them, if I have to give this rig to another person, that's better. And torso tweak is on layer 6, torso tweak 6 here. Run the script. Okay, so now my rig is done, I think. So I need to work on, I now need to work on the weight painting. So I won't be doing it during the stream here because this is very tedious. I had some, before someone asked me to make a video about correct weight painting. Honestly, that's a bit super boring to show this, because I will sure show you some tips. Like for example, if I want to isolate this and set it to the head, as you remember, it's deformed also by the feathers and stuff. I will just select with Control plus, and for example here I know that all those bones, all those mesh here won't be deformed by anything else than the head. I could go into the vertex group and click here and remove from all groups so that it doesn't add any more influence. Then search for the head and assign. And this is how I do cleanup. First of all, I get rid of all useless weight, and then for the arms and stuff like this, I just rework it and this way. But now if I move the feather, you won't see the horn deforming anymore. Thank you. So one last thing before we finished. I don't know how to script at all. I absolutely don't know how to write it. So what I've done is that instead of will you use shape keys? And no, won't be using shape keys because this is to be exported in FBX toward Unity. Unity can deal with shape keys, but I don't know how to do this because I don't use Unity. I deliver the FBX to the coder which does it. And for such a model, using shape key, as it is pretty low poly, will be a waste of time and a waste of resources, because you can with a decent weight painting you can achieve very good deformations without the need of using corrective shape keys. So as we don't know, first it's useless, secondly it will reduce the performances, and as we don't know to use it, let's keep it very simple. You will see more and more, especially in I think Unreal Engines, people using blend keys, blend shape, I think they call this like this. It's the shape keys in Maya to articulate faces. It's not 100% bone based. They are doing this, and this kind of thing is very often used, even at very high level like Picaut. They use a lot blend faces, and the fact that they are using kind of shape keys to animate the face, but it's combined with a bone-based rigging of the face, so they can also achieve very extreme poses that are out of the boundaries of the shape key, because the problem of the shape key is that you have a limitation in the movement, and it's a linear translation movement. You can create rotation with shape keys. Whatever, if you want to get so the rig for me is done here. can see, little bug. So I have forgotten to parent this to parent someone to the heap, so it's not this bone. Always not this one, not this one, and not this one. So maybe on the deformation. Wow, that's weird. Yeah, another problem, doctor. Okay, so I think I have some stuff to rework here. First, I think, yeah, this is following, but wow, that's crazy. Hi. Oh, so this is driving me mad not to find the problem with this tail here. Everything is parented to the hip, but the one is behaving inconsistently. Huh. Oh, okay, I know. Yeah. I think that, yeah, I got rid of the deformation on the tail because the tail deformation bones are not in the right place. Yeah, that's it. So if I reset the deform here, that will fix the problem. It was not a problem about the rig in itself, but I've disabled it because they weren't on the correct layer when I reset everything before. So yeah, sorry again for that. So I will show you in a few seconds. Oh yeah, I have achieved to pick the code to create this little UI. So I will open it here to show you, and I will open another instance of Blender. Yeah. Ah, Dan Pro, wow. I'm so super happy you're here. We are just finishing this session. It was a very, so people in the chat just say hi to Dan Pro and Bats. Happy you join us. Dan Pro is a top rigger. He's one of the best on the market regarding Blender, and he does super tutorials, very clean for every level. So you should yeah, you should subscribe immediately to his channel. So yeah, we've done this little guy here, and I haven't been into weight painting. We have just created all the constraints and you know, the basic stuff like this, and a tail stuff with secondary control, a switchable IKFK arm with the properties here, okay, and some flipping stuff, but I haven't been into weight painting at all because we don't have time, and I was just showing how to get this. So let's add enable the add-on Rigify. That will allow me to add a human metal rig, and I will generate the rig. And now, so I don't care about this, but what I care about is that there is a rig UI that appear, and here you can find the little UI that we are using. So one thing is that when you don't know how to do stuff, just see how other people do it and take it. That's it. So this one is in the core of Blender. So I use this method to, you see I just copy and paste it. So what you have to do is to have this first, import BPI, that will open the, I think the, I don't remember, but the library and the fact that you are scripting, that you are using Python, and then paste the rest of the text, and then close the BPI here. Coding kit bash, yeah, absolutely, that's it. That's coding kit bash. So you can easily understand this because it easily know, but I've been okay. I've maybe learned scripting for 3 hours and I hated it, but it was enough for me to understand what was what, even if I don't understand anything here, or more or less. I know this is the classification, so this is you are gonna be that, and you will be displayed here, and will have this name, and will be labeled with this, and you will show that. Okay, I passed it, and I just reworked the stuff. And there is another thing, is that on this rig, when you select some bones, it will show you the specific properties, and you can see this. So here there are a lot of stuff quite complicated, let's say, but if you read it, you can see that is just defining a type of a family of bone, let's say, that he names controls, and I think he defined them before. I don't remember. Yeah, maybe I should do this another time, showing you this, because this is the snapping operator. Yeah, you see all those math functions, etc. is for the FK to IK snapping, which I don't understand. IK FK snapping, but yeah, there is, I need to read this again, but there is a way just to also make some code kit bashing, and take the part just to, when you select this bone, show me this property, and that's quite easy to guess once you tried a bit those. So guys, I think that's gonna be it for this streaming. So I won't do the weight painting, because it's quite boring, and it's gonna be pretty long. Maybe I will do a short tutorial about weight painting this kind of character, but yeah, for the time being, I don't think it's super relevant. So that's gonna be time for me to it's gonna be time for me to say goodbye. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you very, very soon. Thank you all.